As the world crumbles, the windows shatter and the globe turns, QTVNickBro from his nuclear bunker in Kiev talks with his guest of the day. I'm Vitalia and here's QTV.
Thank you, Vitalia. Hi, I'm QTVNickBro and welcome to episode 10 of ATWC. As usual, I hope you're having a great day, and remember that if you do like this episode, then leave a like and subscribe so that you'll never miss my podcast and some other crap I occasionally upload here. Um, yeah. Today's backstory is very interesting. Backstory of today's guest. So remember how I talked about this new social media network called Revolt, which is like Discord, but it doesn't feel like it's owned by Electronic Arts. And we don't have to pay like $5 for anything just slightly more complex than sending a message. It's similar to Discord, right? But it seems to be not like greedy, as I just mentioned. And it's also more open source, and I would say maybe even customizable, which is very cool. It's a very cool network. I recommend it to check it out again. And also my Revolt server. But you're probably wondering, what does it have to do with today's guest? Revolt has an active community of translators that help translate it into numerous languages. It's not only really like software that has this. Now, for example, Minecraft has this as well. They use Croden, but in Revolt's case, they use something called Vblade. Vblade? My English. And yes, Ukrainian is one of those languages which they help to translate the network. And I plan to help in that as well. I've known some people who do help translate it to Ukrainian. And so I'll be very glad to help them. The community of translators is mostly centered around a Revolt server that's called, Revolt Translators. That's where I met today's guest. She helps to translate Revolt into the Cornish language, which is spoken in Cornwall. It's a region located in the southeast of the United Kingdom, and please welcome today's guest, Anna. Say hi, Anna.
Anna Ovi Hag Kernoic Ovi.
Thank you very much for coming here. It's very excited because I'm very excited for everyone, I suppose. In this bunker, it's a bit lonely here. It's just me and my friend Vitalia, and nobody else. Yeah. Anyway, tell us about yourselves.
Well, I am a Cornish nationalist. I am proud of that. I mostly talk about Cornwall whenever someone talks to me. I get sick of death of it. I've had multiple people make memes about me saying, "Oh, Cornwall," and then it says, "Shut the f up." It's been going on for 4.5 hours now. Because once I did talk about Cornwall to someone for over 4 hours. So if anyone ever speaks to me, they're in for a long haul with Cornwall. I am a transgender person, so I'm advocating for trans rights within Cornwall as well. I'm not sure what else to say. I've not had to do one of these for a few years. I've never had to introduce myself like this before. A few years.
Yeah, and so you're really into Cornwall. You're like a walking encyclopedia from Cornwall. Actually, in fact, you do have an encyclopedia about Cornwall, from what I do know.
Yeah, I do all things Cornwall. I run Cornwall Wikipedias, not the official Wikipedia, but I run my own one. I'm helping rebuild the Cornish Nationalist Party. Planning to run for the town council in a few years. And I am currently in the Cornwall Youth Council.
Nice. So tell us for the Californian white people who, just like when Ukraine invasion began, for the first time heard about Ukraine. Before that, they just assumed, is it a part of the Soviet Union? Can you tell the same but for Cornwall, so that they want to go, Cornwall? Is that part of what's the best comparison? Or Cornwall, is that part of England? To those people, what is Cornwall? I kind of said that already, but yeah.
It's clearly enough.
Yep.
Cornwall is not part of England. I don't care if you Google it and it says England. It was an illegal taking of Cornwall, an illegal rule. It was never an act of union signed into law. Cornwall is a Celtic nation within the United Kingdom of about 500,000 people, our own language, our own cultural identity, and our own ethnic minority. We got ethnic minority status recognised within the UK back in 2014, I believe it was. And I mentioned we already have 500,000 people added, yeah.
Yeah.
And our language, it's slowly rebuilding. It's not at the same level that it used to be. We have about 500 or 600 native speakers. There's a good 5,000 learning it at the moment from the census that there was a few years back. That might have gone up by now, since that was back in 2001.
I see. So, Cornwall is mentioned one of the Celtic nations. Now, for those who are uninitiated, Celtic nations are.
Oh, I have to correct you on that. We hate being called Celtics.
Well, yeah.
We like to be called Celtics, like a
Celtic.
clicking K.
My English is not the best. It's
It's
probably
okay,
not.
it's just something I'd like to
Yeah. Okay. It's okay that you correct me. I like that. Who likes to be corrected? Well, I do. Okay. But yeah. So Celtic, right? Yeah. So Celtic nations are nations in well, how do you call the region? Well, West Europe, I suppose.
British Isles.
Oh, yeah, the
just
British
in
Isles.
Well,
Well, there's
and
also
France
Brittany.
as well, because
Yeah.
there's one in France, yeah.
Yeah. So it's consists of the Irish, Ireland, Scotland, Cornwall, Brittany, right? Yeah, Brittany. And I think also the Isle of Man. Well, did
Yeah,
you say the
you
Isle
were
of
right.
Man? My
The
English.
Isle of Man,
And yeah, I think that's it. Oh wait, no, I think there's also the Spanish ones, right?
the Spanish ones is a bit argument. It's not argument. It's a bit of a debate right now because a lot of people recognise that as a Celtic nation, but some people also don't. It's a bit of yes no situation depending on on their own personal opinion.
Oh, I see. So, yeah, so that's really kind of like the group, I suppose, right? It's there. What am I? Yeah.
Well, we tend to stay in the Celtic group. We have our own unity flag. There's some differences, obviously, with some people accepting Spain as a Celtic nation. But mostly the Irish, the Cornish, the Welsh, the Scottish, the Manx, they're the main ones that are always on the flag. And we're the mostly. Oh, and Brittany, sorry. Mostly, most ones stuck together. Obviously, the Irish and the Scottish, they get most of the attention from the media if anything happens with them. Because they are obviously bigger. They more events can happen, more people attend those events. So obviously that overshadows Welsh and Cornish and Breton events. It's still there. It's just not seen as widely as the other ones.
Uh, I see. So, you think that Cornwall is a bit maybe overshadowed by some, other nations. Uh, yeah, that seems to be.
Cornwall, especially, we're definitely overshadowed even by Wales because a load of major events happen in Cornwall. And all people see Cornwall is just a tourist destination when it's not. We're a nation. We have our own culture, our own values, our own history, and yet people are like, "Oh, Cornwall seems like a nice holiday place." When, yeah, Cornwall's nice to visit, but I don't want you visiting every summer, flooding our country or nation, as I should legally say, nation. Um, it's not that we hate the tourists. It's just we have over tourism and toxic tourism because that money that's made, it goes out of Cornwall. So people might come down here with good intentions, thinking they're going to put into the Cornish economy, yet that's going to go straight back out and not go into any funding for Cornwall.
Oh, I see. It seems to be a topic, with people from regions which are kind of like commonly thought of like as touristy, but ones which shall hold more than just being tourist destinations. pretty interesting phenomenon. But what I wanted to say,
Yeah, we are tired of just being seen as a tourist destination when we still are here. We're still people at the end of the day.
yeah,
It feels like to us that our home is being used just because our heritage is being ripped away from us, just so some rich Londoners can have a holiday down here in their second homes that they use only once a year. When there's real Cornish people having their homes stripped away, going homeless in our streets, while the government's doing nothing to help us, or giving us a voice, or giving us a say in how Cornwall's ran. And the rich Londoners come down here, buy the second homes, making us even homeless. And once all that heritage that's in those homes have just been wiped from the rich Londoners.
yeah. Well, I see, and yeah, I wanted to ask you about so you mentioned the Celtic, yeah, Celtic nations. That you mentioned they're overshadowing you, but like Cornwall's movement. But have you yourself ever been to like other Celtic nations like Wales? You yourself, yeah.
I've had plans to go to other Celtic nations, but um, obviously things don't add up. Railway strikes, because those happened across Britain recently. I was planning to attend the All in One Banner Cremu March. That's the Welsh version of All Under One Banner Kerner. They march for well, the Welsh one marches for independence, while the Cornish one marches for devolution. Because I have to stress this enough. I can't stress this enough. Cornwall is not looking for independence, unlike Wales and Scotland. Cornwall is looking for devolution, not independence. A lot of the right wingers will say, we can't give Cornwall this and that, they'll just sodder off and die on their own because their economy is too weak. If we weren't giving all our money to England, we could afford to have our devolution, become a nation again. Now, if we had all our money, eventually we become independent. But with them taking all the money, we are barely surviving on our own as it is. Like, we qualified for a European grant when we are still in the European Union. I'm not quite sure on exactly how much it was, but it was in the hundreds of millions. And when the Brexit ongoings, like the referendum was happening, I forgot the word there, referendum. Um, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister at the time, I'm pretty sure, he promised Cornwall replacement funding, yet we've only seen about 9 million of that, and that's just totally unacceptable.
I see. And by the way, speaking of Brexit, are people in Cornwall they're against Brexit, like most of them, right? Or are they for Brexit?
No, we were very for Brexit at that time, but there has been recent polling showing that out of all the UK now, there's only one county in the whole of the UK that still thinks Brexit was a good idea.
That's interesting. And why do they think it's a good idea?
I I'm not a political analyst, even though I should be. But I reckon this is just my opinion, not facts. If you want the facts, they can go look into it themselves. My reckon, my opinion into why I think it's still a stronghold for Brexit is because they're a majority Tory voters, and like a majority just follow what the Conservative Party say.
Yeah. So it's the Conservative Party that's the most pro-Brexit voice, I suppose, was. I
It
see.
is still technically, but they did fall
Yeah.
down in the local elections recently, but they still have majority government control. With the new Conservatives coming in as well, it's we have the Conservatives, the main guys who are in power. And we have the new Conservatives, UKIP. I think it's English Defence League as well. All these right-wing parties trying to get majority control in government, but the main majority right now is the Conservative Party.
Okay. And so, and you mentioned Boris Johnson. Now the thing is, I'm from Ukraine, and in Ukraine we love Boris Johnson. Uh, but you in the UK hate Boris Johnson. So how about we do a
Yeah.
trade? You give us Boris Johnson, and we give you. Uh, who can we give you? I know someone
Zelensky.
who we don't like. No. We like Zelensky. Well, okay. For now, we like him. Uh, But yeah. Well, to be fair, you know, I want to ask one more thing. So, what about Cornwall in Ukraine? How are people's attitude in Cornwall towards Ukraine? Are they supportive of Ukraine? Are they most supportive of Ukraine?
Well, a
Yeah.
lot of things have changed recently. At the very start of it, any time I went out, I saw Ukraine flag flying. Obviously, massive surge in support of Ukraine, taking in the refugees from the war. Um, that's still going on. The Cornish government is still supporting the Ukraine and the refugees that come in. But obviously, because of the political landscape now, more people are opposed to refugees coming into the country. More far right activists, I say activists, very carefully with air quotes, um, they are trying to stop refugees coming in, any type of refugee, even if they're from Ukraine, the war. Um, they have seen a surge in anti-immigration protests. We have also seen a lot of counter protests to that. So right now, I'd say it's overly positive towards Ukraine, but because of the fascist propaganda that the government is feeding us, not the Cornish government, the main Westminster government, I feel like views about immigrants are changing and refugees. Because of that, more people are starting to have right wing views. You see what I'm going at?
Yeah, well, I do know that two right-wing parties in the UK, UKIP and Reform UK, those are essentially Russian agents, especially Nigel Farage, leader of the Reform Party, um, because they keep proposing Eurosceptic. Well, after all, they're one of the guys who advocated the most for Brexit views, and they also have promoted. Um, okay, maybe Euroscepticism isn't exactly a pro-Russian thing, but it commonly is attributed to pro-Russian political forces in the West. But they also opposed like Russian, like, well, let's harsh on Russia type of stuff, like negotiations and other garbage. And heck, Nigel himself, he had a show on Russia Today, literally propaganda station of Russian government. So he isn't even hiding it really. Um, and uh, and yet they're still like um, not like banned or anything. They're still out
Honestly,
there.
he's just a prick. A lot of people dislike him in the UK.
Yeah, I can tell. um,
If I'm not mistaken, his bank account was the bank hosting was trying to shut down his account recently, and other banks were refusing service. Honestly, he's not had a really good reputation within the UK since his political career started. Because even though there is a lot of right wing politicians, people tend to be anti extremist right wings. But even if you have a right wing government, right wing local government, people still dislike the extremists like him.
yeah, so what you're saying is he's not popular in the United Kingdom, like at all. Um, which, from my personal research, seems to be the case, since they don't even have a single MP. So, yeah, very popular in quotation marks. If you have no national representation, only for like some seats in the local government. Um, I suppose those forces aren't like strong in Cornwall. Not even strong, they are not really present in Cornwall like at all, more or less, right?
Right, so that's bit again.
Um, so such forces aren't really popular or really represented in Cornwall, I suppose, right? Um,
It depends really. A lot of things sway within Cornwall. Like recently, or semi-recently, we had the council elections, and if we look in UKIP, I just pull up the stats quickly. I am pretty sure they didn't get a single councillor,
in
if I
Cornwall,
am still correct. In
right?
Cornwall, yes. Just give me 2 seconds. Uh,
All right.
I'm just looking up the results because um, Labour isn't very popular down here either because the in Cornish party down here, maybe in Kerno, I mean Sons and Daughters of Cornwall, they had the same amount of seats as the Labour Party did.
Hmm.
You can see some discourse there, while Labour is making gains within England, is still failing to reach Cornwall.
Huh.
Okay, so I've just checked it. Yeah, UKIP didn't get a single seat within the Cornwall Council in the 2021 election.
That's good. But this is the thing, right? There, if you say that like these guys are like even like slightly like not even okay, not slightly, but like very popular in like United Kingdom, then it will fit right into the Russian narrative of them like, oh, the Europeans are like tired of war or something, because that's what they want you to think. They want you to think that it's like a psychological warfare, psyops. The Russian government is very much into psyops. And so, so this is I think the mistake that some do. Okay, maybe not some. Actually, I think anyone else does it, but some could make this mistake and assume that due to not just in the United Kingdom, but in some like Western European countries, these guys are like popular. In reality, most people support Ukraine. They very much the government support Ukraine more or less. Most of them at least. Hungary, and yeah, so in most cases that's really a big threat. Although the far right in Europe has been on the rise, from what we saw, but more or less still, the governments, the people are very supportive, and we are very thankful. That huge thanks for the support, for all the tech, for all everything. It's been great. That's one of the reasons why I like
There's definitely been a lot of support from world government. There hasn't been many in Europe that's opposed it, but I can see why some people might be tired of the war, but you have to remember you can't just solve this with a little peace treaty because neither side will ever agree to give up land or take land.
Yeah.
There is no diplomatic solution to this war. Either Ukraine wins or Ukraine falls and Russia wins. But obviously, it's pretty obvious that Russia's not going to win this war.
Yep.
Ukraine obviously has the upper advantage with NATO and all the European supplies coming in. Because I know they're still trying to get the fighter jets, aren't you?
Yeah, we are very close to getting F-16s. Although not, I think some of me recording this, I think an agreement has been made. I think I don't remember. I'll correct that in the editing probably.
Would you be in favour for NATO and Ukraine to join up together now, fighting the war, or would you want Ukraine to join NATO after the war?
I want them to join now, of course. Like I understand that the US don't really want you, start 443 supposedly. I thought the thing was really started, but still, I know you guys are a bit like scared.
Yeah, because people would be scared about joining a war with Russia because if Ukraine joins now, that would pull many nations into the war.
I mean, to
that
be
would
honest,
put a lot of people into fear and cause more unnecessary death. So how would you tell the people? How would you justify your reasoning for bringing all these countries in if Ukraine was to join NATO now?
well, to be fair, I can kind of understand why, and to be honest, realistically, I don't see us joining during a war. After a war, definitely we will join, but during I don't see it happening. But it would be very cool if we did. And the reason is that why people maybe should be less worried is I think for what we saw, Russian army isn't strong. In fact, I predicted if NATO, like the only really big thing threatened with Russia is maybe nuclear bombs. Dividend God knows what state they are, so those are in. If you see how their tanks are stored, because that's the thing about the army.
When it comes to nukes,
yeah,
Vladimir Putin can send an order for them to send the nukes, but the generals themselves can either say yes, do it, or no, don't do it. Because when I looked into it, apparently it's up to the generals themselves if they want to fire the nukes or not, because they can defy Putin's orders. Apparently.
Well, maybe not anymore now that Putin, is in power for like what 23 years. If you defy Putin, probably be I don't know, front of the window in like or something. But the thing is, we see a systematic problem in the Russian army is that the maintenance is absolutely nothing. The morale is pretty low. Like sure, like some stuff like is very much a problem. Like you shouldn't underestimate our enemy. Our enemy has some stuff, but for the most part, I think Russia, if like NATO like declares war on Russia, I think they will get to Moscow in like a few days or something. Like the Russian army is not like can defeat like just the United States, for example. Well, to be fair, yeah, the United States is like the best army in the world, but I definitely wouldn't call Russia even close to being the second best army in the world. Definitely it's the second best army in Ukraine, huh? But not in the world. That's for sure. We have seen, that they cannot win this war, because if they were, I mean, actually I can speak on their behalf, but yeah, Russia definitely can win against us, let alone the United States or NATO.
Yeah, well,
I think it'll be a pretty solid victory for
Russia
NATO.
has already fallen to Ukraine, with the rebel groups also advancing into Russia. I know the Wagner group recently got publicity, but there is also groups that's also fighting for the same thing. Sorry, not Ukraine. Russia has failed so far to move into Ukraine within its 3-day time span that it
Yep.
promised. I would reckon that Russia is no longer even in the top 10 of most powerful armies
Yep.
anymore. It's not fit for purpose. If not, I don't have the equipment. Eventually, they're just going to crumble. Infighting is going to expand even more. There's going to be more rebellions. And sooner or later, the Russians, they'll just leave. They'll start fighting. I reckon a civil war is going to break out in Russia. Ukraine might get left alone, apart from a few rogue forces that still might try to push up into Ukraine. But I feel like Russia is going to collapse in the next few years because of this war.
I think some more or less as well, although as you saw with like the failed Wagner rebellion and the arrest of Ihor Hirkin the other day, while there is, I think, some kind of like occasionally they may have some kind of feints of rebellion. In the long term, I don't see the Russian people themselves to rise up against Putin or anyone else. As you saw, for example, with Girkin, is you'll think that it's such a popular pro-war Russian nationalist figure that it is Girkin, that his supporters would like, I don't know, do something similar to what Wagner did in Rebellion, but no, they only really did like a few protests and stuff. They're like pretty small too, and that's really it. So it shows the weakness of the Russian people in that they can't like the Russian opposition isn't effective at all in what they're currently doing, and what they're currently doing is occasional protests, like some burnings here and there, and the Freedom of Russia / Russian Volunteer Corps legions, which probably do the most work, but even then, there's not really perfect. And the really thing is, right, here in Ukraine, we are not, we try to not associate ourselves with Russians. We don't talk to them. If they do try to talk to us, we say, we tell them to F themselves because I don't want to talk to them because, of what they did to us.
There's like a lot of ethnic tension between you two.
Well, it's not really like ethnic. I suppose maybe, I suppose kind of maybe, yeah, but like.
I'd assume it'd be ethnic because it's not just one group, but it's both ethnic groups fighting. I know Russia and Ukraine made up of many ethnic groups, but when I just say ethnic group, I mean just Ukrainian and just Russian.
Well,
I'm
I
not
mean,
trying to go into the details at the minute.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm not really that knowledgeable on that sort of stuff, but what I do know is that Westerners get a bit like angry at us Ukrainians when we don't try to like be like slightly nice to the opposition crowd, for example. Like, for example, fans of Alexei Navalny, because when we call them out for like stuff like, for example, Navalny, him being a Nazi, like literally Nazi, or that he wants to keep Crimea, and so like when we're like against that, they'll go, well, look at those ungrateful Ukrainians being like racist, whatever. But the thing is, really, again, we are traumatized by the fact that these people, Russians, not Putin's war. This is a Russians invaded, not Putin invaded. It's not like it's Putin fight. Like literally, I'm taking this, but it's not like Putins are all fighting on the battlefield. It's Russian people fighting, and we can't really, and we don't want to talk to opposition because if it's some other internal matters really They won't like do the rebellion in Russia for them. They have to do it themselves. If they want to show themselves, the Russian opposition wants to show that they're, actually worth listening to, or by us or anyone really at this point. Then they should, I suppose, man up, I suppose, and do what should have been done a long time ago: rebel or overthrow Putin or whatever, and change Russian society from the ground up in a way that it would make sure that this stuff won't happen again, because it's not the first time it happened again, right? Because we had Georgia,
Communist
2008.
revolution all about removing dictators and removing the monarchies so that people run themselves. Was
Well,
that the whole point of the first, like
the October Revolution. The October Revolution ended up replacing dictators, not dictator. It's not really, it wasn't really, that wasn't good either. But
I'm not trying to advocate for communism here, but just to the basic point of, was it Vladimir Lenin? I'm getting these names
yeah,
wrong. But didn't he? Wasn't the whole point of his revolution to remove people from the top to create an equal society? But Putin has literally destroyed their own ideals that the founders of that wanted to implement. He's made himself into a dictator instead of what he probably believes himself to be, a communist.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if he was lying all this time when he promised that, and he always wanted to be a dictator. Maybe. I mean, I'm not sure, but I don't really care either ways, because he still ended up being a dictator. Doesn't change much in terms of that. Um, so like as I mentioned, it's not the first time. Georgia 2008, 1992, Chechnya 2, I think, as well, 2000, and Moldova 1992, and even before Soviet collapse, or Soviet Union, even Russian Empire as well. It's not the first time, right? And it's not like we can have them get away with this again, in a way. We have to make sure that they don't do this kind of stuff ever again. And to make that, we have to tell them, well, not even tell them, but they have to understand that the current state, I suppose, of Russia, of how they like society, is maybe not in a good way. It's not good. Not good at all, I would say, even. Why am I so
I
uncertain?
think Russia and Ukraine will ever rebuild relationships in the far, far future. Like,
I'm not
the
sure.
countries will ever start working together again.
Maybe there'll be like some like low basic technical risk, like stuff like if case of like something is needed like very urgently for whatever reason. Maybe something like that, but nothing more than that probably. At least like on a broad level, I don't think they will ever be well, no, we were never really friends all the way. Like we're kind of forced. Russian culture was forced onto us for centuries.
Right. So the next thing I want to talk about is the failed blackmailing from the Westminster government. That's the main one in England.
Yep.
So they disguised a power grab for another Tory seat as a devolution deal. Tried to trick the Cornish nationalists. So they proposed a deal that would give more funding to Cornwall and to give more powers to Cornwall, but that would result in a directly elected mayor of Cornwall, like not just a mayor of one part of Cornwall, but a mayor of the whole nation of Cornwall. Which obviously that's not a good thing. It would put us down in our movement towards proper devolution and Parliament. Just getting up the document here, it claims that this devolution deal to give us £7 million in affordable housing schemes, £1 million for heritage projects, 1 million for investments in Cornwall's nature capital and media builds, apparently, and be including Cornish in the list of recognised regional or minority languages. So they said it would be a good deal for Cornwall. It would be a big deal because their slogan was "It's a big deal for Cornwall." But the issue of that is 2 million for heritage, 1 million for nature, and 7 million for affordable housing. We would have kept that if we stayed in the European Union. We've had 500 million for the European Union instead of what they're offering now. this is barely a dent in the Cornish economy that we need. If we need a better boost than this, if we're going to have a directly elected mayor. Because our motto is one and all, but it's not one overall. Because we want a council, not a mayor council. Because if it was just a mayor, our argument for a parliament would be put down. Because anything that we want would go through the council, obviously, but the mayor would have a final say on it. So even if the council is all in favour for it, the mayor could just turn around and say, no, it'd be done with that. We have that in Cornwall. Right, what was I? Yeah, couldn't have a mayor thinking everything in Cornwall. So there was a public campaign for it. Loads of money was spent on promoting the devolution deal. A lot of public backlash happened. So obviously they took that results and they were like, they don't want it. Another attempt by the Tory government that we have in right now, they gave a select group of people another generic about if they would want it or not, and they were all given the technology themselves and given the answers. We tried to use that as a base for why we should have it. It was forged results, and the other questionnaire we had was processed by a third party company. It never went through a scrutiny committee. So why that is very shady and why the Cornish people fought back against that. So we're not going to accept a deal that went through shady rounds. Give us very little devolution itself because the actual powers that they were telling us we would gain just be better transport, investment in skills. That's not devolution.
I
I
see.
have to breathe before I fucking suffocate myself with how much I ran.
It's okay. But you mentioned you were in you're going to revive the Cornish Nationalist Party, right? Is that how it's called? Tell us about the party. Yeah. So, what does your party stand for, and what are the
right
plans?
Now we are rebuilding the policies and we stand for because previously it was a right-wing party run by right-wingers. Recently, it has changed its actual political stance. We aren't sure if it's left-wing or centre-left yet, because we are still in the process of rebuilding the Cornish Nationalist Party. I am working on the website for them. Our main goals for Cornwall would be obviously devolution, would take action to protect the interests of the Cornish people. We would also take action to make Cornish an official language of Kerno. We would take action to achieve self-government of Kerno. Because we've had enough of being controlled by Westminster. It's not unreasonable what we're asking for. See, Wales and Scotland, they're demanding independence. But all we are asking for is a parliament. I cannot see how that could be unreasonable to Westminster size.
Okay, but there is, I heard, another party called maybe on Kerno. I think I spelled it correctly.
It's maybe in Kerno.
Yeah, Cornish is not for me. I'm sorry, I'm not good at it. Yeah, but
they are a good party. I'm not going to disrespect the party. They're too soft on Cornish issues. Because they did lead the way for a recent debate that could have led to a Cornish parliament. It failed by 2 votes. I think it was called Meaningful Devolution for Cornwall.
Oops. Sorry.
They're too soft. They don't take enough action. They kind of sit back there. Their political campaign posters, they're also very outdated. I mean, no disrespect to maybe in Kerno, but it still looks like they're stuck in the year 2000. They are trying to get more younger people involved with the party, but it's mostly made up of people I would say over 60. I feel like that they're failing Cornwall.
So suppose you're trying to attract more of the left young crowd. Well, maybe in Kerno just has like left alt crowd, or is it more centrist? Like, what is like the political alignment
Maybe in
of the both?
Kerno, I'm gonna have to double check what maybe in Kerno is. I'm pretty sure it's left wing or centre left. What
The
is it?
CNP is more right wing, right? Or is it also left wing?
It used to be, but we've been swinging towards left wing. And it's under new management now. So maybe in Kerno, it is centre left.
Nice.
So we believe that maybe in Kerno isn't doing enough to address Cornish issues. It's too soft on the actual Cornish issues we need addressed. Obviously, they are a good ally to the CMP, a good ally to Cornwall, but we feel that they've not done enough. They're slacking in reaching the youth. Because I know, obviously, it's a big issue with any party. It's going to be harder to reach younger people because younger people won't want to vote or won't want to get politically active. Obviously, we've had the turmoil with the Conservative Party, we've had turmoil with Labour. They're not engaging with people that are younger. There's a person called, his name was Nico, ran for London Mayor under the Nico Defence League. That showed how many people, young people, turn out to vote if they believe in the points and the policies he stands behind. Obviously, he ran as a joke, but he did get a massive turnout of younger people because he did prove if you reach the younger people, they will engage back. Our current politicians are not trying to reach out to younger people. That's where maybe Incarno is also failing. They're just aiming for one specific group. They need to start expanding who they're aiming for. Engage more with younger people, more content aimed at younger people that are interested in them. Because if they don't do that, they're gonna end up killing themselves, politically. End up gonna lose all their seats, not even barely have any control even in the Cornwall Council that they have now. Without real change now, they're gonna go downhill. That's why the CMP is rebuilding. We hope to aim to engage younger people, and obviously I am a younger person myself within the CMP. Or no more than the current leadership in the CMP. Unlike maybe in Kerno, the CMP has younger leadership. Don't quote me on this. I'm not too sure how old the CMP leader is. I would give a rough estimate about 30 or 40 years old.
I
So that
mean,
is different to maybe in Kerno with leadership. That's about, let me double check. Dick Cole. Yeah. So Dick Cole is 56 years old. I'm not just making a crude joke. His name is Dick Cole. Dickcoole.
I don't make fun of people's names.
I do feel that with his name, I'm not going to make fun of it, but people might put the Cornish movement down when they're like, oh, they have Councillor Dickhole running for independence. Because people would, obviously, it's a name that the younger people are going to mock if they see it. You can see why maybe in Kerno could be failing Cornwall by failing to reach the younger audience. They're not doing enough to reach that.
I see. So we have a serious issue on that front. And so you mentioned it's rebuilding. How long is it gonna take to rebuild? When is it going to launch? I suppose.
We don't have a launch date in sight. We're still in between meetings, still deciding on who does what. Currently, the content I need to put on the site just isn't made yet. So at the minute, we're in the baby steps of rebuilding the CMP because obviously it went inactive for quite a while, but it's still there, still rebuilding now. Still gonna have to try regain the trust within the Cornish people because obviously it might say, "What if you just go again and not do anything for Cornwall again?" Our aim is to rebuild the Cornish Nationalist Party, rebuild what we have lost, and reach a younger audience that maybe in Kerno is failing to reach.
Okay, and and so this is so no hard feelings to deliver the MK, but you're doing your own thing. I get that. Now,
So the
so
CMP was actually a splinter party from the Maybe and Kerno to begin with.
oh, huh. I see.
So
So
the split happened in 1969. Was
that's quite a while
based
ago.
on the same debate that was occurring in most other political parties at the time, campaigning for autonomy. And the same debates as the CMP was happening and played. And the CMP also just used to be a fringe group. So this S, SMP, the SMP used to be a fringe group, sorry. And originally the debate for the split was because of political ideologies and whether to embrace devolution as the first step or full independence. Because the CMP was more radical independence now, and kind of was devolution now. So you can see why they split, but
I see.
views are changing where they're more aligned to each other. If you see what I mean.
Well, what is the current composition of the town council that you want to run in, political party-wise?
It's our town council doesn't get involved with political party policies. It's more personal policies rather than party policies. So obviously, I my town council, but I can't be screaming. Right, let's make this action for Cornwall. Let's declare independence, draft the constitution now. Obviously, councils are limited in what they can do. Obviously, my policies for town council would obviously be different from if I was in the Cornwall council now. I have to use being in a town council as a building step to be elected into the Cornwall council. If I tried to run for the Cornwall council and had no prior experience, no one's just going to vote for a random person they've never heard of. Someone that's never done anything for Cornwall in their eyes.
Yeah. Okay. And one more thing about Cornwall. I mean, you. No, not Cornwall. You, but so you're transgender, right? What do you think is the current state of LGBTQ rights in Cornwall?
I have honestly not seen much anti-LGBTQ activities within Cornwall. I have only seen about one or two things in the past 6 months. There is quite a lot of Cornwall Pride events. It's actually the fourth biggest Pride organisation in the UK. I've not seen anything too active over here recently.
That's nice. And the UK, it's in general in the UK more or less they're all right, like rights, right? Or is it just I mean, I suppose
The
it's
UK is a clusterfuck.
so there's some challenges, but it's supposed to be better than some other countries.
The UK has been named more transphobic than Russia itself.
Oh no, I wouldn't consider it that bad because
I don't know. It's been proven in an actual census.
I mean I don't know how this
it was-
in United Kingdom, but what I heard in Russia, it's absolutely hellscape. Like I would compare.
It's very bad here as well.
But it's not at that level bad.
It's been proven to be that bad. It's been proven to be worse than Russia's trans rights at the moment.
Well, I mean, at least the government like allows it more or less. In Russia, it's like you even have like this very case. It's some Westerners find funny, but it's not actually funny. That they had this law that's against gay propaganda supposedly, and when the game Tomodachi Life, it's a very fun game on 3DS console. When that came out, it had a feature where you could have like same-sex like couples, and just because they were like same-sex, Russia rated the game 18 plus. And definitely, it's just one thing, sure, but that game definitely doesn't have that on it, to be fair. And at least, I mean, okay, maybe I don't know maybe about the Church of England, but the Church of Russia, which is an FSB thing essentially at this point. A lot of us were really spies for Russia, but they're one of the probably the most transphobic guys ever. Like in general, like again, I'm not from United Kingdom. I'm also not from Russia. But from what I did here, it is definitely not the level. I would not compare LGBTQ rights. I would not say it's worse. I understand that you had maybe some negative experiences, and it sucks that
Okay, so I have just
there's
found
some
the
stuff.
article where it talks about that. I was slightly wrong. It's named alongside Russia.
Oh well, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, even then, I'll still maybe not say alongside Russia. Like, sure, maybe to be fair, from what I did here, the United Kingdom is pretty. There is some stuff that we've worked for. That's for sure.
It's been going downhill recently, very badly for trans people in the UK right now. It's very dangerous for trans people to even appear in public for protests because I got distracted by the end.
Yeah, it's okay.
Trans rights in the UK right now, they are going downhill. The government is actively trying to harm trans people. Non-binary is still not recognised as legal gender to put down as your identification. If you want to transition, there is no surgery in the UK that will do female to male surgeries anymore. There is a 90-year waiting list to be seen to get treatment for being trans. Well, not treatment, but like HRT surgeries. And that's 90 years, like 90. Now, won't that cause more deaths, more suicides? Because obviously, suicide rates are higher with trans people than they are with cis people. Personally, I knew two people who were trans within the UK. Because of the failings of the government to provide them any support, even talking therapies. See, they died to suicide, so government's failing to give that support to trans people and actively trying to harm trans people by banning sort of transgender healthcare. They recently shut down the last transgender clinics for under 18s. They are trying to actively ban use of pronouns and gender identity in schools. And now they've passed a very dangerous bill. If a child comes out in school and the teachers hear it, or if the child tells the teachers will have to tell the parents, and they'll have to tell them everything, even if the teachers know that they live in a transphobic or homophobic household that could put them in serious danger.
I mean, that's horrible, and it shouldn't skimp over that if it's serious issues. But even then, as compared to Iran or Russia, like in Russia, there is like a few, let's say with clinics, they have other thing they haven't have like even the basics more or less. Like,
That's a different issue
so
in itself. There's homophobia, which is obviously still bad.
yeah,
Transphobia, obviously there's major issues, but I almost said transnistria there. Transphobia in the UK is very significantly worse than other European countries. Even just to be named alongside Russia in transphobic issues is obviously a very concerning person. Because you've seen how Russia has acted towards gay people, trans
yeah,
people.
especially in
And
Russia
the
occupied
UK used
Chechnya
to
as
be
well.
very pro LGBTQ. Recently, with the Tory governments in for so many years, it filled people with very right wing propaganda. More people are not going to listen to reason. They're just going to go into fear mode where they just want
Okay,
to be hostile towards trans people.
I see, but at least I think what the difference here is that this United Kingdom used to be more, even still is kind of like there's still some or less, pro LGBTQ sport. Russia was never sport for LGBTQ people in history yet. They have yet to be. Even during the what many people foolishly and incorrectly call the liberal democratic use of Russia under democratic in quotation marks Yeltsin. Even then, society, the government, conservative. You'd be glad that even the basics, like the very, very, very basics, that shouldn't be even basic. They should be, how do you say this? Necessities. They should be a must. Even those, were barely, maintained. It's absolutely crazy. And compared to Ukraine, which we aren't perfect either, to be honest. There's still some work that should be done. But I don't think. But even we aren't. I mean, we aren't homophobic either. Most people just don't care. really.
You are definitely
And
invited
others are
to
supportive.
have your own opinions about this.
Well,
But
in my opinion,
you can't
LGBTQ is
argue
always
with
supportive.
you can't argue with the facts that have been presented.
Well, I mean, yeah, United Kingdom is bad in some stuff, but Russia is just worse. And it's just how it's the same with Iran. Iran is even worse. Like the horrible homophobia is still so prevalent in Russia and Iran and other
Homophobia
countries.
is a different case in the
And
UK.
transphobia as well. Again, both of those are bad. I don't want to
They're both
sideline
bad, but
homophobia
they're
either.
still separate issues. In the UK, homophobia is not as bad as transphobia. But obviously, the UK is not as bad as Russia with homophobia.
Yeah.
It is as bad with transphobia.
Well, yeah, in Russia transphobia is also bad. I just mean that both things of those are in worse state than they are in the United Kingdom, for example. But it's still better in the United Kingdom. Again, the thing is, by me saying that, I don't mean that to sideline the issues in the United Kingdom. Obviously, it is bad. But I won't say that they're on the same level as Russia. Definitely not. If you actually live in Russia, I think you'll probably understand it more because it really is hell.
I
What
don't
is
get
there?
why you would think that it's not as bad as Russia when actual reports have been done by official councils and people in charge. Because I'm pretty sure it was the Council of Europe that made this report themselves.
In the Council of Europe, you say, well, Council of Europe for a long time had Russia. I mean, not right now, that's what I meant to say. Well, I think that I don't think they report is very accurate compared to the real situation because what we saw that.
Why could the report not be accurate? Because they are involved with it directly.
Well, the biggest change, right, is that the United Kingdom has at least freedom of speech. So if you like,
Actually, we don't.
Okay, let's say that we do.
The police can arrest you. They don't even need reasonable suspicion to arrest you now.
Let's not get into the radical stuff.
Unless, no, I'm not. I'm not getting into radical. If you want, even just a peaceful protest,
I'd call this
you
radical.
you have to go through the police. You have to get permission from the police. Get permission from your town council or city council. You have to get permission from loads of people. Police must attend the protest. You must not make too much noise, or the police will arrest you.
Okay.
Block any streets or take up too much time, so the police will arrest you. If you have, if they believe that you're going to take out something that could be a sign or bill card, or I forgot the word for that, they can arrest you. It is not a democratic voice in the UK. It is a borderline fascism.
Okay. Well, whatever. At least 1984, stuff like that. But still, what for example, like they should send people to like camps in Russia or something. They don't have camps in the United Kingdom, they just have prisons. So if they let's say that Russia.
Question, did I just hear a chicken in the background?
I know. As a something, I think that's an animal. Someone I don't know.
I could have swore I heard a chicken there.
I hear it as well. I think it's some kind of. I have no idea what it is, but still, whatever. No matter how like United Kingdom might as well be, the worst. I think at the current rate, they're not as bad. Like, even if it's still bad or whatever, it's still like you have to understand. If you live in Russia yourself, you would be in a I don't know. It would be in a very horrible situation in the UK. United Kingdom.
I would disagree that it's safer in the UK. Loads of trans people every year do get.
At least it's slightly
assaulted
safer.
in the UK.
Just slightly. I think.
So, obviously, knife crime is up, right? Transphobia and hate crimes are up as well. Brianna Gay, she was a trans girl, 16 or 15. She got murdered. It was this year.
I think it's my chair.
She was murdered by two people.
Sorry.
The trans girl. The only reason they killed her was being trans, and police refused to identify it as a hate crime. Right? Attitudes towards trans people in the UK are very dangerous. A lot of trans people in the UK don't feel safe going outside as themselves. They feel they're going to get assaulted or attacked or even worse, killed, just being themselves going outside. Because it's very clear with Brianna Gay that the attack was aimed at her. It wasn't just a funny coincidence or a mistake or it was something else. It was only because she was trans that they killed her. Now, the police are failing to protect trans people in the UK. the trans hate crime is rising. The police aren't doing anything about it. So what options do trans people have in the UK to feel safe within their own towns and cities or villages?
Something similar could be seen in Russia, but I think it's better in
Exactly.
the
That's why
UK.
they said,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
exactly. You just said it's similar in Russia.
yeah, but
UK and Russia have a lot of the same issues. Um,
at least in the
so
UK,
people are gonna die. Please don't help trans people
well, for
when
one
there's not
thing,
legislation put in.
yeah, but at least in the United Kingdom, there are way more people who are supportive of LGBTQ than there are in Russia, because in Russia, as I mentioned,
We
most of the
used to have
society,
about a 60% support rate, but
there's still,
over
like,
the
sure, there's
years that
homophobia in the United Kingdom, a lot of
this
people as well,
listen,
but not
we used to
on
have a
such a mass scale.
60% support rate, but that's went way down. Now, public support for LGBTQ people is about 30%. It's a sad truth we have to admit. Hate crimes will rise. More trans people will die in the UK. There's no way around that. More people will die. More people will get hurt unless the government steps up, puts these laws in place, does police reform, protects trans people. At the rate they're going now, trans people will be illegal. If the government gets their way, trans people will be outlawed, won't be allowed to do anything related to trans, not be allowed to identify how you'd like. If they don't step up now, it will be too dangerous for trans people to leave their homes. Already, the way that things are going, trans people could be denied healthcare, like basic healthcare, denied job opportunities, could be denied basic human rights just because they're trans in the UK.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a concerning situation. I'm sounding like a UN official. Oh yeah, we're very concerned. We can't do anything. That's the thing I hate about the UN. They didn't do crap. So yeah, I'm obviously, I would say I'm a liberal type. So I am very much in support of LGBTQ people. So so it's very concerning. I actually had no idea it was that bad. But I still stay in my thing. It's not as bad as Russia because in the broad terms, there's some stuff that doesn't really add up. But still bad. It's still bad. Don't get me wrong. It still should be fixed. Get your stuff together,
So
UK.
I am going to believe the documents and the facts that council have said that it is as bad as Russia and Poland.
But anyway, let's get back
You
to the topic.
move
We're
on
really much
to.
distractive. Like, God, this
I
is
was just
like
about to
two
mention to
hours.
move on to another topic.
Yeah, this is nearly 2 hours.
The next thing I wanted to talk about was the TMR Double Action Group. Um,
Sure.
the Cornish and Devon group um, came together all about abolishing the tolls on the Tamar ferry. Sorry, the Tall Point ferry and the Tamar bridge. Because if you're coming in from Devon into Cornwall, there's no fees. A lot of Cornish people rely on the medical hospital, Derriford Hospital in Devon, but obviously they have to pay to get across. If you want to get on the ferry, it's free if you walk there, but obviously that is very um, unsustainable way to get to the hospital. People in Cornwall, a lot of people can't afford to go through the tolls each time they travel because obviously it's gonna obviously wear down all their money eventually. Because it'll keep going up and up and up. They won't realise because it's bit and bit over time. Once it adds up, it will go insanely high.
Okay, I see, but obviously I have to speed up a bit because we're very much over time. But my comment on this thing is, yeah, it's toll should be removed, in my opinion. I agree with you.
Yeah, people argue that the tolls need to be there to maintain the bridge and the ferries, but all
Can
we
you just
need
find
is just a
finding
bit of
somewhere
government
else for that?
funding.
Yeah, like I
Yeah,
think you can find it from somewhere else. But anyway, let's get quicker a bit. Pretty final question because I'll ask one more thing at the end. But let's talk about the thing I found you from Revolt. How did you find Revolt?
so I honestly I can't remember how. Oh no, never mind. I actually do. I was on Reddit one day and it was the Discord's birthday, and someone made a post saying, "Is Revolt going to be a good champion to Discord after it's reached its 100k milestone of its membership?" So that's how I found Revolt through Reddit, and then I started using Revolt through there. Which
And
then
you
I
still
started
use Revolt
translating Cornish.
often. Yeah.
Yeah, I still use Revolt, not as much as when I first got Revolt, but it's definitely it's to Discord, a more secure and privacy focused competitor. I would prefer Revolt over Discord, but the issue is enough friends. They're not willing to just move to another platform just for you. If they found a way to bridge closer to Discord, I would use Revolt more. If you see what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, and one more thing is where do you find you? So for every episode guest, I try to link their social medias in the description. I want to ask what social medias of yours do I link down below?
If you could just link my Twitter page, that's my main.
Alright, just that, nothing more. Um,
Yeah, that's just it. I'm distracted one second.
okay, just that then. Yeah, so I'm very sorry. So, huge respect to the one person who actually got to the end of this, because we're very much overboard here.
Yeah,
I,
a lot of distractions and
yeah, okay, well, maybe it will be a bit
awareness of
harder
it.
to tell because I'll cut a lot of parts. Most of the debate we had, which you will be able to see on Anna's uh, um, platforms, which we had about Transnistria, where I think that
Yeah,
Transnistria should be a part of Moldova, where she thinks
I
should be
still think
independent.
it's going to be its own independent country.
Yeah, and the debate got so large that we've been recording for almost 2 hours here. Here, this is also be cut from this podcast and will be on her networks. Yeah, and yeah, it's not really your fault, Anna. Well, okay, maybe it a little bit is because you kind of got distracted. But I also get distracted a lot. That's why
Yes, we
I
both
relate to
get
you a lot.
easily distracted.
Yeah, I'm very sorry we couldn't talk about all the stuff here because of that, and I'm also sorry that. Why am I starting again? I don't know why. I'm just. Yeah, and yeah, this will be hell to edit because of how a lot of stuff there is. But I think this episode will be one of the more interesting ones. I can't say it to every episode, but still, it will be very interesting, I suppose, when it will come out. Yeah.
My final words are Dawalis. That just means goodbye in Cornish. So Dawalis, everyone.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for being on here. Yeah.
Lads, for having me on this.
Yeah, no problem. Now on to extra dish, right? And the extra dish, I want to tell you, listeners, something which I think I already said, but I'll say it again. This podcast is ending. After 13 episodes, in a compilation episode, there will be no more episodes of this podcast. One season, that's it. So we're currently on episode 10, so that's 3 more episodes. The reason I want to end this is because, well, there's some stuff, but really kind of got tired of this a little bit by now, and I want to have a break. Break more like forever, because I want to do again podcast again. This podcast. Maybe I'll do some other podcasts, but not this format. Yeah, but yeah, that's yeah. So stay tuned for episode 11 and 12 and 13 and yeah. Just again, to keep updated, subscribe and like, so you will never miss those two. And also, I'll begin. I want to say that the final episode will be very special. It will be very much different from the usual format we do here. So yeah, very much stay tuned. I'll already begin production on it after I finish this episode. That's just how different it is. That it requires more time than usual than for an average episode. But yeah. Anyway, on that slightly pessimistic but still very exciting note, I'll end this podcast. Thank you for listening. I'll see you later. Bye.